So if the limit switches, it won't. So if the CMD-0401 don't stop for any of the limit switches, there's a relay right inside here that needs to be replaced. And you start out by taking all the screws out. These were loose before I started. Then once they're all loosened, you can wiggle this off. You got to be really careful. Those little gears can fall out, and the screws will fall out if you do. So these things go right in there as part of the limit switch system. So when you pull it off, you got to be careful that those don't fall out. And then here's the offending relay. Here's the new one. It's a little bit. Here's the relay. There's the new one. They're soldered fast. The wires are soldered fast. So we go solder some new short wires fast to the new relay. And then you got to clip the wires and reconnect them. And you reconnect them based off the position on here. We tried to match up the collars, but there is 3 wires coming off of it. Plus there's a jumper we have soldered in. And you take the screw out and move everything around and just leave connectors under the cover. Then when you put it back on, you got to make sure that you got to be really careful that everything lines up. Get the gasket lined up. And you put everything back together again. And you got to watch. Another thing to pay attention to is this is the seal to keep the grease inside. So when you pull those screws off, it's the same screws that hold the lid on also keep this in place. So don't pry this off or you're going to have more challenges putting everything together. When you're going back together, loosen the screw up and make sure these rotate evenly. Double check your gasket, because when the first time I went back together here, something wasn't quite lined up right. So I loosened the screw, wiggled it, and turned it a bit, and then everything went correctly. So something wasn't seated together, because we have those little planetary plastic gears in here, and you need to make sure they're lined up. And you can do that simply by loosening these screws and making sure that both of these click evenly. Then when you're finished, you will have to reset your limit switches.